So essentially over on the house side in the Victorian entrance, the window that's in here, if you were to look out of here, obviously now we see all of our lovely gardens, but underneath there, when that wasn't planted, I've seen the original timbers that are still underneath. So they were the foundation timbers to that kind of porch section or that front door section of this kind of 1595 section. That would have been added in 1624, so that would have been the kind of the entrance to the house. So anyone coming here, that would have looked like the key entrance, which I find actually quite interesting, because there's a bit of a theory on that one. Because if you were to look at the front of the house and you were to come here as a visitor and you didn't know about it, you'd probably come to this smaller part of the house itself rather than go into the front door where the badger is, and go into the main hall, which in a security sense, for obviously secret Catholic masses or things that are going on here illegally, you would actually think, that's quite a good deception. You know, you go into the actual front of the separate house to the hunting lodge. Does it give you time? It's just a theory that a kind of, that something that I've thought of a little bit of. Does it give you that little bit extra time there? Yeah, time's everything. Obviously in here you've got, originally in 1595, as I was saying, it goes all the way from the ground floor to the top of the ceiling, and then later on we change purpose in here and it becomes, obviously in 1624, the main kind of Pendrell family house. It's been utilised as part of now a continuation of the hunting lodge. It's actually joined to that, and then 2 rooms above us, and then the attic, as we were saying about earlier. Where we're now by the coat stand, you can see the timbers next to this, which are open. You can see where the pegs actually still are with the holes. And you can see where the design of this, which if we look at the picture, which we'll fill in later, you can actually see these arced sections of the timbers. And you can see where they actually fit into here. So you can see where they would have arced round, and you can see where that actually fills in itself. The door in front of us has then been added obviously later by the Victorians, you can see this timber that you see here next to the coat stand is where that 1624 section would have finished. So now we have a little bit of an extra section by the front door, which has been added on basically.
That's brilliant. And also in the woodwork we see some of the markings as well, don't we?
You see a lot of holes in the markings around Boscobel. So there's lots of nail marks, which is from plaster and lath. So at some point this has actually been covered over. If you ever go to the Row in Chester, you'll see where they've now pulled the plaster and lath off because they want to show the old timbers. But we have the same principle with that in here as well. You'll see lots of these kind of chiselled marks all over it. Some of this can actually be just really rough finishing, but a lot of the time this is for an actual key. It's for actually getting the plaster and lath to stay on. It's actually for for it to hold on to. Whereas some of it is literally just rough cut finishing, underneath. Actually here we can see where we have the timber going all the way up where it's nice and smooth and finished. Yeah. So those rooms above the top would have had a nice smooth finish. And then underneath here, later on when they've plaster and lath this, they've actually then put all in these chisel marks in. So I think this is a key. Like I was saying, this is for where that plaster and lath has been attached on. You can literally see a clean mark there from cut marks to then smooth section the whole way up.
So that would probably be invisible to the naked eye.
Yes, it would have been,
and
down here covered over at some point. But obviously in 1624 they weren't using plaster and lath as such. This would have been a clean finish down here as well. It's just later those layers that we were talking about. You can also see the builder's marks in here. So you can see this V with the line next to it and this little scoop across, and you can see the same on the opposite side. It's a bit like a big IKEA flat packer timber frame. They would have built it on the floor, then raised it up, and it would have all had its kind of markings. So some of it can be kind of Roman numerals, some of it can just be a circle and a dot, or 2 circles and a dot. Everyone would have had their own kind of style of doing it, or whatever it's the same if you do woodwork yourself. What makes sense to you might not make sense to another, but as long as the team knows how to build it together, that's all that matters.
So it's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle.
It's a bit, yeah, definitely. But I suppose in some senses you'd only have to take the pegs out. You could then retake it down and move it elsewhere if you really needed to. Like I said, an IKEA flat pack.